showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Welcome, Salt Lake City, to episode 108 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name is Chris Hollifield. Welcome to my show. Welcome to the podcast where I showcase individuals, events, things happening in and around Salt Lake City, making the city what it is today. I got a great show for you guys today. Really quickly, I want to mention the sponsor for this episode, The Urban Lounge, located right in downtown Salt Lake City. Their website with a complete show listing is located at theurbanloungeslc.com. Head on over to their website, add them on Facebook, follow them on Twitter, show them some love. Really great place to check out live music here in Salt Lake City. In this episode, I sat down with a local actor, Jared Shipley. He's been part of numerous different films. He's part of a mini-series coming out, Gold Fever, on the Discovery Channel, this upcoming Friday, October 11th and October 18th, that you're going to want to check out. He came over to my apartment here. We sat down, we chatted, got to know him a little bit better and find out what got him into acting, as well as doing some stand-up comedy. I want to thank him for dealing with my cold apartment. I live in a heat-controlled apartment, so they haven't turned on the heat yet, and it's that time of the year where it's cold, hot. So my apartment was freezing, but we had a great conversation. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Keep it raw, man.
Yeah, our recording studios is freezing. They haven't turned the heat on yet in my apartment.
Yeah.
It's cold. I mean, it's warm then cold and warm then cold. Utah, this is that time of the year here in Utah.
Yeah, it's really weird now because, it's just scorching hot during the day, and then as soon as the sun sets, it's like winter time. It's really weird. And it screws up my body chemistry too. I get sick this time of year all the time.
That's
every year.
That's not any good.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to let's just jump right into even like what got you involved in acting. I mean, that's pretty much what you do. Is you're an actor.
Yeah. It's something I got into 13 years ago. I was curious about it, and I told my mom, and she
So how old were you? 13.
I was 13.
You were okay, so you're 26 now.
27.
27. Yeah. So about 13 years old, you go up to your mom and you say, "I want to be an actor."
Well, it wasn't quite that. It was, I'd like to take an acting class.
Okay.
And so what she did was she sort of looked around and found a few places around that were offering acting classes, and I sat in on a couple, and I ended up meeting this guy named Jeff Hansen, who I started taking film acting classes from. And
was that here in Utah?
That was here. It was over on by the Tower Theater on 9th and 9th. And he became a really great friend of mine. He taught me for about 5 years, and I learned a lot from him. And then I got into high school and the theater program there. And after that, I decided I wanted to try to make a living. And
at 13 years old, you wanted to make a living. Or
yeah, sort of.
Where was the progression here? I mean, were you doing like plays in high school at all?
Yeah, it was kind of a really slow progression. When I was 14, Jeff, my teacher, he was making this independent movie like out in Tooele that he brought me onto, and I'd never been on a film set before. I had no idea how they work. And
what was that experience like? I mean,
it was actually awful because I was there. I mean, my mom was driving me out there. It's an hour and a half drive there. And then I'm there for 12 hours and I have to be driven home back. I had no idea that that's the way a film set worked. And I didn't know anybody. And I was mostly just doing extra work, and I just felt so lost but
it was your first experience.
Right.
I mean,
my first one.
What do you expect? I
he did give me one scene where I spoke, and I had, it was a dialogue scene. I mean, it wasn't going very well. It was embarrassing. Like, he had to stop and like take me aside. And I just felt really embarrassed because I'd never been through anything like that before. It was very like, the spotlight's on me and now I'm wasting everybody's time, So it was just a kind of a strange introduction for something that you wouldn't like. I didn't think I'd want to do it again after.
So what made you decide to do more?
Well, I hated the idea of giving up on it because I still loved movies and TV and all that. And I still wanted to.
You wanted to do something big.
To be a part of it. And I knew that I sort of felt like there was something about me that wasn't in that experience, that it was just something about me that was wrong and not the actual act of making a movie. So I kept at it, and I got into high school and started doing theater, high school plays, and it was sort of
what was the first play you were in?
Ever or in high school?
Ever.
Ever.
Let's go there.
The first play ever was in 3rd grade.
Okay, so even before you decided to be an actor, you were in plays.
Yeah, I mean, in 3rd grade, it's the thing, every class does a play. And usually they would do like a school version of a Shakespeare play. My play in 3rd grade was this play that we all created. It was like a historical educational thing about these kids who go back in time to the signing of the Constitution and all of that. And I played Ben Franklin. And then I didn't do a play again until high school.
What play was that?
I think the first
that's searching the treasure chest there. That's
the first thing that I did there was it wasn't a full length play. It was like the high school Shakespeare competition, where you just perform in a scene, not in a full play, that you take down to Cedar City and you compete with, all the different schools. And so I was a part of that. And then there were, at the end of the year, there's the student 1-act plays that people get involved. I can't remember if I don't think I did that my sophomore year. And then I was in the first full length one I did in high school was a play called Witness for the Prosecution by Agatha Christie. It was like a British courtroom murder mystery play, and had a lot of fun doing that. So
at what point did you start getting into like doing like roles in films? What was the first film you were in?
Man, you'd think I could remember because they've been so few and far between.
Or were you, or like the progression there? So you were in plays, and then. So
I was in plays in high school. After high school, I went to New York City to go to acting school.
And what school did you go to?
It's called the American Musical and Dramatic Academy.
And how was that experience for you?
It was great. And I loved it. It's caused some complications since financially because it was very expensive.
So debt you're paying off the loan.
The
loans off.
A lot of student debt that.
Well, I'm sure living in New York too.
Right.
Is expensive.
Yeah, and I had after high school I had saved up for about a year.
Which would pay about 1 month's rent in New York City.
Yeah. But it worked out really well. I saved up enough that because my housing was lumped in with my loan, so I wasn't paying for my housing while I was there. And I saved up enough.
So you weren't working at all out in New York. You just were going to school.
I only had to work for the last about month and a half that I was there.
Okay.
It was a 1.5-year program, and I saved up enough to buy me food and movie tickets for a 1.5 years. But I kind of ran out of money just before I graduated, and I got a job working at Caroline's on Broadway, the comedy club, working in the box office there. So that was also kind of an intro to stand up, like seeing it live. I'd never seen stand up live before.
Even here in Utah, you never went to any stand up before you went out to New York?
No, not really. I'd only seen it on TV. Like I'd watched Seinfeld and all that. So I worked there the last month that I was in school, and when I graduated, I ended up having to come back here because I didn't have a place to live.
Well, it's a lot cheaper here too to live.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to stay if I had any idea how to live in a big city on my own and pay for my own rent. I maybe could have worked a little harder and find a place to stay, but I didn't, and I ended up coming back here.
From New York, you came back to Utah. The progression. I'm trying to get into when you started getting into some films, into some acting.
So I came back from Utah, and then about a few months later, I went into an audition for a film, an independent film called The Yankles, and that ended up being the first thing that you were in. And did you have a very big role in that? Or? I did eventually. It was a long process being hired because they held auditions one summer. And I went in, I got called back. I was told that I was being put on hold, which meant that I was going to be hired once the money came through and the dates were set and all that. But I wasn't officially booked yet. But I was booked for a non-speaking part.
What is a non-speaking? Like you're just hanging out?
It's kind of like a featured extra. Okay. Basically, you're there every day. You're in shots. You're in scenes. You're acting, but you're not
talking.
Speaking, yeah.
Which that would be pretty easy. No roles or no lines to memorize. And
but it's also difficult too to like just kind of stand there because you'll have to like ad lib or you have to act with your face and all that stuff, all that kind of thing. It's
a lot of expressions.
A lot of expressions. And all that. So I was booked.
How do you even find out about that? I mean, okay, so you came back to Utah to find out about this film.
I have a talent agent.
Okay, so you have an agent there.
Yes.
Okay. And so they're looking for stuff.
Yeah, and they're
it's not like you could just look on Craigslist or
you can look on Craigslist, but most of that stuff is not legitimate.
Now, what do you mean by legitimate? Like,
well, I mean, like it doesn't pay much or it doesn't pay the rates that it should be at or any of that. I mean, usually if it's a legitimate production company that's, either
they're going to look through a talent agency.
Right. And this project was a union project. So they would have to pay, all the actors were paid union scale. And so they would have to go through. So they went through, the talent agencies as because that's where the union actors are represented.
And what's the Yankees? What was that film about?
The Yankees is a sports movie. It's a baseball movie about a team of Orthodox Jewish yeshiva students who form a baseball team.
Well, there's a story for you, right?
Yeah, the two guys that wrote it are two guys from LA who started their own production company and had this idea that they'd been working on and developing for. I mean, it ended up being about 15 years for them.
Is that typical for a film? 15 years?
It can be for an independent film.
And what's it? Just lack of money?
Yeah. I mean, raising the money for something like that, especially it was a fairly large budget for an independent movie.
But they filmed it here in Utah.
So
they're from LA. They decided, did they move? Did they live here in Utah? Or what made them decide to film it here in Utah?
They live in LA. They were going to shoot it in upstate New York because that's where they grew up.
Okay.
They went to New York, kind of looked around there, and then one of their producers had shot another movie here. And he suggested coming here because the talent pool was really good and because Utah's really great about tax benefits for film companies that shoot here.
So that's why they all want to come here to shoot their movies.
The tax breaks are unbeatable to come here. So that's why they chose to shoot here. And they brought me in, put me on hold, and then the funding kind of stopped at that point. And it was the whole project was on hold for a year. So I had to wait another year for it to actually come.
And you're not making any money during this process, right?
No.
I mean, it's not like you're getting a weekly paycheck.
No. I'm not hired at this point.
Okay.
But I kept calling my agent every, 3 months and bugging him about, hey, is the Yankees back on yet? Do you know anything about it? I said, no. And then, I read, I called there's a hotline here called the Utah Film Hotline. You can just call it and they'll, update it every week with like what projects are shooting, what projects are casting for extras or whatever.
And is this a public number?
Yeah, it's a public number.
What is the number? Or don't you want to share it?
I haven't called it in a while, but
so people I can call it, and even if I don't have any degree or if I don't have any experience, I can call this number and I could say,
I mean, usually
I want to be an extra in a movie.
Usually, what the hotline is giving notice about are extras, which don't require agents to be a part of, or hiring crew members.
And what does a gig like that pay? Like just an
extra work?
Yeah, just an extra. Like
it depends. If it's a union project, around $200.
Really?
A day.
So I can just go make a couple $100.
Oh yeah, but it's a 12-hour day at least for extra work. It's
and how steady can that be? I mean, I'm thinking of quitting my job now and just doing extra work.
I have no idea. It's not bad. There's some old movie with like some old Billy Crystal movie where he's living with his dad in LA and his dad is like a career extra man. Like he's been doing that for 30 years or whatever, just being an extra in everything. And sometimes if you go and do extra work too much on the same movie, they won't let you come back because they can't have like a recognizable face. They'll be like, wait a minute, every scene.
That guy was in that scene. That guy's in that scene.
There's that guy again. And like, they don't want to.
Well, you can wear wigs or hats or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I've only done extra work very little, maybe on maybe like 4 or 5 times. And, but that's what the hotline mostly consists of. So I called that hotline one day and they said, and starting filming on so-and-so day is the Yankles. And I immediately called my agent back. And the first thing she said answering the phone was, "Are you calling about the Yankles, Jared?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "All right, we know they're coming. We're going to call you soon. They'll have you back in for an audition." And so I went back in and ended up getting hired again, but this time for a speaking, regular principal speaking part.
And were you happy about that you had a speaking part then instead of just a non-speaking?
Yeah, I mean, that was big.
Would it pay better? The pay was, I'm sure, better.
Oh, the pay was great.
If you're speaking.
Got union scale which is normal for a guy on his first union project. And
can people watch this film now anywhere?
It's available.
Is it on Netflix or anything?
Yeah, it went through a long road. It is now on Netflix streaming. Went through kind of a long process to get there, but it's available now. And I'm in it.
So if somebody watches it, okay. So it's what was your role again in it? Like if I want to watch it afterwards, after we're done recording, maybe I'm going to pull it up and will I recognize you?
Yeah. Oh, you'll recognize me. Maybe not I had hair back then. So, so if you can imagine me with hair, you'll recognize me. Yeah. I mean, it's available. But it was a long road. I mean, we shot it in 2007. It was finished. It wasn't finished and cut together and completely done until 2009.
Wow.
And then, it hit festival circuits around the country and around the world
Did it hit Sundance?
Didn't hit Sundance. It hit mostly Jewish film festivals.
Now, are you Jewish? You're not Jewish.
No. The whole cast, nobody in the cast was Jewish except for one person, and that was Don Most, who, was the only actor they brought in from LA. He was Ralph Malph on Happy Days. Donnie Most. He was our name star. So
was that pretty cool hanging out with him?
Yeah, he was a nice guy. I didn't have any scenes with him, and I was only on set with him at the same time for a few days. But I met him and had some conversations.
As an actor, though, okay, so when you're working with somebody like him, who's maybe a little more, do you kind of like look at him and say, what can I learn from them? What can I? Do you do that when you're recording or like filming? Yeah,
I mean, I hung around on set for a while when I wasn't shooting something because I wanted to watch Don work
and learn. I mean, you want to learn how they do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing that I learned that in school. That we were required to be at every single class, even if we weren't working on a scene that day, because we were required to watch everybody and listen to the teacher, direct them and their feedback and what they had to say. Cause you can really learn as much watching somebody act as you can from getting up and doing it yourself. So I mean, and how many times do you get to go and watch Donnie Most work? Like some guy.
Absolutely. I mean, that's fantastic.
I mean, he's not Tom Cruise, but he's a known figure. And
I don't know if I'd want to hang out with Tom Cruise, though.
Yeah. Well, Don Most I'm sure, is a lot more down to earth than Tom Cruise is.
I'm sorry, Tom, if you're listening to this podcast.
I am a fan. Don't worry, Tom. I am a fan. But yeah, I mean, it's, I took advantage of that.
So after the Yankles, I mean, is that your full-time gig now, acting then?
No.
You okay. So you're not.
I have a day job. Acting work, it kind of, my career is so weird because I've booked.
But I'm sure you would like to be an actor full-time, right? I mean, that's your dream.
Yeah. And being around here, just the market and the way I look, I mean, it's just there's so many various factors.
What's wrong with the way you look?
Well, I mean, not everybody's looking for a white guy with a shaved head.
So maybe grow a mustache or,
Well, you can. I did a movie. I did this Discovery Channel thing. I had a beard and I had a little bit of hair.
You brought that up. Let's actually talk about that before we get too far. I mean, going on. The Gold Rush or Gold Rush?
It's called Gold Fever.
Or Gold Fever. My bad. I apologize. Gold Fever. It's going to be on Discovery Channel.
On Discovery Channel, October 11th. It's a Friday. And then the next episodes premiere the following Friday on the 18th.
So like, if you miss it the 11th, you can watch it the 18th or...
No, it's 4 episodes. 4 episodes. 2 episodes on the 11th, the next 2 episodes on the 18th. But I'm sure they're going to rerun.
And what was how did you get, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's, I was saying before, so my career's taken kind of a weird turn. I did the Yankles, which was kind of a big budget thing. And then everything was quiet for a few years. I actually went to live in LA for a couple of years.
Gosh, how was that?
It was great.
Well, the weather's great.
Yeah, the weather's great. LA's really weird. It's sunny every day, but when it rains for like 5 days straight. But I was out there for a couple of years, and I went back to school. Just decided I wasn't really doing much. I wasn't going on auditions or anything, and I didn't really know why I was out there. So I came back here again, and then I was here for about a year. I was doing stand up, and
like just at Wise Guys,
at Wise Guys, and then I decided I hadn't acted in a while. I don't want to get back into it. So I called my agent, said, "Hey, I'm back. I'm on the circuit." And a few months later, they sent me in for this audition for Gold Fever, which is a Discovery Channel docudrama miniseries, sort of a scripted narrative story, but it's interspersed with, talking heads and by historians and experts on the gold rush and sort of giving insight throughout the story. And so I went in for that. And
where was this filmed at? Where
this was filmed all over,
California?
All over the state. It
was filmed here in Utah.
Filmed here and takes place in California, but filmed here. Again, tax breaks, things like that.
Well, thank you, Utah, for the movie tax break.
It's a big deal. I mean, the film industry here is really becoming really well known. There's this new film studio that's breaking ground next week in Park City, and it's going to be like the real deal.
So do you think actors are going to maybe start moving here if films are being made here?
I think
instead of Hollywood, you hear these, I want to be an actor, I'm going to move to LA, I'm going to move to Hollywood. No, come to Salt Lake City, come to Utah.
I think that is the goal, to make Salt Lake like a new LA.
I like the sound of that.
It's not there yet.
It's definitely not LA yet.
But I'd like to see it be that in, 10, 15 years.
Do you see that happening? I mean, honestly, you're part of the industry. Do you, it has a possibility?
Yeah, I do. I think it's possible, especially with this new studio going up in Park City. Hopefully, it follows through to the end and becomes successful like that. But, it's still difficult to work full time as an actor here. It's rare. I know a few guys who do it.
Here in Salt Lake or Utah area.
but it's varied. I mean, they do other things. They're theater actors, they're film actors, they do commercials. A lot of them, most of them teach.
Have you done acting. Commercials?
I've I guess a little bit.
What is a little? You either have or you haven't. Come on, Jerry.
Well, I've done industrials, which are sort of like commercials, but they're not for TV. They're for like internal use within different companies. So I've done a couple of those, and then a friend of mine, he runs the Salt Lake City Film Festival, which just finished its 5th year. And he's had me do, I've gone in and shot like promotional stuff.
Oh, I got you. And then just aired that on local stations.
Yeah, which didn't go through my agent because I wasn't getting paid, and it was just like kind of a favor to him.
Oh, you're a nice guy.
Well, he's a friend of mine, and he gets me perks on the film festival too. So that's a good incentive.
So back to Gold Fever. Before we get too far away from that, what is your role in Gold Fever? I mean, is it a pretty big role, or?
Yeah, it's kind of the same size as it was in Yankles. I pop up every once in a while.
I literally just pop up.
Yeah, I just pop into the screen and I smile and wave, and then I pop down below the screen. I saw a preview. I mean, you sent me a link. It looks fantastic. Yeah, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, seriously,
it looks really good. The guys the production company that made it.
I'm assuming you've seen it already.
No, I haven't seen it.
You haven't even watched it, the entirety of it?
No, man. Actors don't get any advanced looks or anything. Like,
seriously.
Once an actor's wrapped, like, that's it, and they see it when everybody else sees it.
Seriously. I would have assumed you would have had advanced screening tape sent to your door.
Oh, no.
So when
actors have a lot less power than people like to think they are.
So when you watch it on the 11th, you're going to be watching it for like the first time, just like me.
Yeah.
I mean, just like my neighbor might be watching.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a weird thing because actors, they're the face of whatever the product is, but they're not the people creating the product.
I gotcha.
Isn't that it's kind of strange and kind of scary too, because if it's bad, you get all the credit, you know, like, why were you in this terrible movie? Like, well, I didn't know it was going to be terrible when I was making it.
You thought it was going to be great.
Yeah.
Do you think that happens to a lot of actors? Like, even, you know, you see these actors nowadays and you're like, gosh, why the heck were you in that film? That was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, well-known names, you know what I mean? I'm not going to mention them, obviously, but I think we could think of a few roles that's, you know, you're like, why the heck did you take?
Oh yeah, I'll mention them.
That horrible Adam Sandler, Jack and Jill,
or this movie R.I.P.D. that came out a little while ago with Jeff Bridges in it. And sometimes
Jeff Bridges, great actor,
and terrible movie, which he admitted like publicly. And sometimes they do, you know, it's, you know, actors kind of shoot themselves in the foot when they you know, kind of bash the project that they were in, but they do it. It happens sometimes because things just don't turn out the way that they expect they're going to when they start. But this, you know, I haven't seen it yet, but Gold Fever, I mean, just based on everything I've seen, I mean, these guys are professionals. They made another series called The Men Who Built America, which was on History Channel about a year ago, and it won a few Emmys. So it's the real deal. So
are these the kind of films that you would like to be in, or like, what is your dream roles? Like, where would you like to see yourself? Or is it just kind of take any job that you can get?
I don't really have any dream roles.
I mean, you mentioned stand-up comedy. Would you like to be in comedies? Would you like to be more in, you know, documentaries or more?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't really set any boundaries.
Is there a role you wouldn't do?
Not that I can think of. I know there's roles I'm not right for,
like, such as
I usually don't get cast as a bully or a tough guy, or
I'd be intimidated if I walked down a dark alley and you came at me. Maybe a billy club in your hand.
Thank you, I guess.
I'm kidding. I wouldn't be scared of you at all.
I was told by a teacher when I was in school, because I was doing some scene where I played this creepy guy, and he looked at me really hard and he said, "You're really good at being creepy." So I guess that's a good thing, I guess. I don't know.
You can just like sit in the corner and kind of stare at people. And
yeah.
Just maybe get a van and be the creepy neighbor stalker.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I'll play anything that I'm hired to play. I haven't set, you know, like I said, I haven't set any boundaries. I mean, I'll play anything that comes up. I don't care if it's a drama. I've done both drama and
So do you go to a lot of auditions? I mean, I'm assuming you've auditioned for a lot that you don't get.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what is a percentage there? Yeah. What is a percentage of auditions? To actually getting a part, booking a part, whatever the terminology is. I'm not an actor here. Yeah. You know, I'm just a podcaster.
Probably, I don't know, 50-1.
Any embarrassing time?
Maybe more.
More. Yeah. What? Any embarrassing times at auditions that you care to share?
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty, especially when I was starting out. I've sort of developed this attitude of auditions to just like, you really learn to not worry about them anymore.
You just go and you do it. You
just go and do it.
If I get the role, I get the role, and if I don't, I don't.
Yeah, and you know, I just kind of just kind of get rid of the script as soon as.
So you don't even get nervous. You don't even get nervous.
Well, no, I get nervous. Everybody gets nervous, but there's two kinds of nerves. There's the nerves that sort of make you want to run away, and there's the nerves that make you just want to do it well,
just
and get it done. Yeah. So I've moved from the nerves that make me want to run away to the nerves that I utilize. But yeah, especially when I was younger, I had some really bad auditions. There was that show Everwood that used to shoot up in Park City. There was a show on the WB that was on for a long time.
I remember that.
I auditioned for
that. It's been a while since I've heard anybody reference that.
Oh yeah, Everwood. Yeah, it was the big. I mean, that was the big thing here. because it's shot in Park City and they hired local actors all the time.
And were you in that?
No.
You wanted to be in it real bad.
A lot. I auditioned all through when I was in high school, and I would always, I would just always like get locked into doing every scene the exact same way. And I think the first time I went in there, I went in for an audition for this part of a kid who had, he was in the doctor because he had broken his arm, and the director was there in the audition, and we were kind of talking about the scene a little bit, and he goes, so how is your arm? And I said, oh, my arm, it's fine. My arm is fine, because I thought he was like talking to me, and it turns out he's like reading the script, and I said, my arm is fine, and he goes, it's not broken. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then I started, going into the lines, and that was pretty embarrassing.
I could imagine. Well, yeah. And I imagine you didn't get that role.
No, I never got booked on Everwood ever.
Oh yeah. That's right. You mentioned. Yeah, you mentioned that.
There was one. My favorite audition probably ever was a part that I didn't get, but was probably the best audition I've ever had for a film, because it was the first time that I really just kind of let go and didn't care about being embarrassed, and I wasn't self-conscious or anything. I just decided to just go for it. It was some horror movie that was casting here. And the part I went in for was 16-year-old, 17-year-old high school student, but I was like 22 at the time. So I went in, and I'm supposed to play this student who's pretending to be possessed by the devil in order to get out of a test. And I got the script, and I had no idea what to do about it. Like I'm looking at it like, this is going to be the most embarrassing thing ever. I almost canceled because I was just so strung up and nervous about it. I sort of took a look at it again and realized what kind of a movie this was, and I sort of felt a lot more at ease about it. And I said, what's the worst that could happen? Just go for it. So I went in the audition and I did the whole. I mean, I went full out with the devil, the devil voice, and the rolling eyes and all that kind of possessed Linda Blair kind of stuff.
And you didn't get the role, though.
I didn't get the part, but the casting director told me, he said, I thought that was a great audition, and trust me, the only reason that you're not going to come back for the callback is because I don't think I can pass you for 16 years old. And that was it. And so I just started. That was kind of like a big moment for me, and I just kind of started having that attitude every audition.
Now, do you ever go out of Utah for an audition? Would you fly, like, say if there was an audition for a film that you just really wanted to be in, that was, let's even say California, just or instead of somewhere on the East Coast, would you pay the money for an airline ticket? Or have you?
I never have. Usually that's not the case, because most of the time I wouldn't be aware of it.
Okay.
Because if they're casting out of San Francisco, they're only going to send notice to San Francisco.
There's no way to be on that radar.
Yeah, right? It would just, the cost of a plane ticket, the cost of gas to drive to San Francisco and back.
It just wouldn't be worth it.
Probably wouldn't be worth it, especially when I have a job, and if I book it, I'd have to go to San Francisco for so-and-so amount of time. And so, it's kind of it's a waste of everybody's time to audition for something that you can't work on if you do get booked. So that's never been the case for me, but I do know actors who, they'll mostly theater actors who have worked with directors throughout the years. There's this guy I know who, he goes off to Kentucky Shakespeare every year. He lives here, but he goes to Kentucky every year to do the Shakespeare Festival because he knows the director, and the director hires him every year to go play Shakespeare in Kentucky. So, it happens that actors are based here and they work at other places. I just haven't, that's not my situation yet.
Who would you like to be? Who are some of your, do you have any actresses that you look up to, that you would just influences? There we go. That you would just even love to be in a movie with. Who would you just? Yeah. Who would you just die to be in a movie?
There's a ton.
Maybe top 5.
The two movies that really got me interested in acting were Rain Man and Philadelphia.
Great films.
Yeah, and all the performances in there, including Tom Cruise.
See, Tom, we love you, buddy.
See? You're the reason I'm doing this, Tom. But yeah, Hoffman's performance in Rain Man, Tom Cruise's performance in Rain Man, and then especially Tom Hanks in Philadelphia were really those were the performances that I watched, and I thought, wow, I'd really like to make. I'd like to be able to make people feel the way that I feel watching that movie.
Especially Philadelphia. I mean, that was
really. Yeah. It's weird that I became a comedian and was sort of a goofball because so why Philadelphia was my influence. But I used to watch a lot of, before I was interested in acting. I mean, I'd watch Jim Carrey movies all the time and just kind of goof around and run around the house and annoy my mother with
trying to imitate
Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, yeah.
So why did you stop doing stand-up then? I mean, what
stand-up was something. So my story with stand-up was when I was living in LA, I was, sort of bored and lost and felt like I always wanted to try stand-up. And I started doing stand-up there in LA.
Just open mics.
Yeah. And then a couple months later, I decided I wanted to leave and wanted to come back here.
They all come back to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, this place, I've moved away from and moved back to Salt Lake twice in my life. So this place, it's like one of those paddle balls, it bats me away and then it just pulls me back and then it bats me.
Well, it's a beautiful place. Salt Lake is a beautiful place.
I love this. This is my home. I mean, this is my hometown.
So anyways, you were doing stand-up.
Right. So I came back here and I started going to the open mics at Wise Guys. And after a while, after a few months of feeling like I did really well in open mics and I was getting to know, the other guys, I started getting on weekends and working weekends every once in a while.
So opening for some of the bigger names coming through town.
Yeah, mostly when, the open mic comics here start doing weekends, they're usually opening for the local headliners like Jay or Guy and Andy and, Rodney Norman or guys like that. And then every once in a while you get a really big show, some out of state headliner name comic where the room is filled. And those are really fun. They only come around every once in a while, but they're really fun when you get a room like that. So I was doing that, and that was my thing. I was just going to work and then would do stand up at night and on the weekends when I had a show. And that was what I did for 2 years. And then after 2 years, which was, I decided earlier this year, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I felt like it wasn't, what I wanted to pursue a career in. I had other things that I was interested in. Wanted to focus more on acting, and I'm a writer too, and I wanted to really start focusing on those things a little.
What kind of stuff do you write? Like books or screenplays?
I wrote screenplays a lot when I was younger, through high school and things, and then I started writing books. I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and I'm working on another one now. So yeah, that's where my focus
Anything
is
published?
now.
Anything published that people can find out?
Not traditionally published. My book was published on this website called Juke Pop Serials, which is a new website that publishes serial novels. And so you post. I mean, they accept your book, and then you post chapter by chapter whenever you have them. So you set your own schedule and posting them. So I did that, and I posted it chapter by chapter, and posted the last chapter earlier this month. So the whole thing is available up there now. But never been published traditionally in print or anything. So, but this is what I'm talking about. Like there's like 4 different things that I'm interested in career-wise.
And it's like, how do you narrow it down to just one thing?
And all 4 of those things sort of require 24 hours, 7 days a week dedication in order to become successful at any one of them.
Absolutely.
And so for stand-up, I felt like it just didn't make the cut, I was looking at it, I was thinking about it, like, I love doing stand-up. I love my friends there.
But I have fun. Were you getting laughs? I mean,
I was getting laughs. I was getting mild laughs. I mean, I looked at myself and I was like, I think I'm okay. But you didn't feel it. You didn't feel it was your ultimate gift. Yeah, it's not my strong suit. And I just felt like, stand-up's great. Maybe I'll do it again someday. But for now, I'd like to focus on this other stuff and kind of get the ball rolling on them. But certainly don't hold any grudge against it or didn't, certainly had a good experience doing stand-up.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you learned a lot even to take on to acting.
Yeah.
From doing stand-up.
Yeah, and it was great.
You've learned.
Yeah, and the great thing about stand-up is, as an actor, is that you really learn to become fearless in front of people. So it's like, if I can go up on stage and be confident then I can certainly go up, sit in front of a camera.
Or, or even just an audition.
Just an audition, sit in front of a camera and be confident.
So what would you recommend? Like, let's say even myself, I was interested in acting. Would you say go to acting school? Would you, do you have to go through all that, do you think, to get into acting? Or what would you recommend for a beginning actor?
I think it depends. Theater, going into professional theater, most of the time, in order to like work, have a substantial part or work consistently in theater, you probably want to get a degree from a liberal arts college degree, not like the one I got.
Too much debt.
Yeah. It's a lot of debt. And it was a 2-year program. I didn't get a degree of any kind. Fantastic experience. Won't never forget it. Met some of my best friends there. And I got to live in New York for 2 years. But the benefit of that, like in terms of like it getting me parts, it doesn't really help. That's all up to me. And that's the same with any acting school whatsoever. But I've sort of found that in theater, most of the time they're looking for a degree in professional theater. And so it's been really weird. It's been really weird for me career-wise because I did the Yankles, which was a big budget thing, and then I did this Gold Fever project, which was also a big budget thing, and I'm getting paid a lot to be in these things. But then I couldn't book. I went in for a play to audition for a play right after Gold Fever was done, and it was some like rinky-dink community theater show
here in Salt Lake. Yeah.
That I'm going in and I'm auditioning for this play that I would work on for free. And then I didn't get it. And it's not that I feel like I'm entitled to any part.
Don't you know I was in the Yankles? It's look it up on Netflix.
It's not like that. It's not like that. But I look at myself and I'm like, man, it's just weird. It's just kind of a strange thing. Cause I've gone out, cause I've auditioned for a few other plays since and nothing's happened. And it's just kind of this weird thing. I'm like, how do I I'm going to be on national TV in a couple months. But I can't get on the.
Was that frustrating? That had to be frustrating.
It's a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
It's only frustrating in that I love theater and I really want to.
You just wanted to be back. You just wanted to act. That's all you wanted to do.
Yeah, I just wanted to be back into the theater because I worked a little bit at the Pioneer when I came back after school, and I did 3 plays there, just like The Waiter or The Soldier, and I loved working there. And I really want to go back, get back into the theater.
What do you like about acting? The most. Or theater, any of that. What do you like about that? What drives you to want to do it?
Well, theater, there's just a rush that you get
from the live audience.
Yeah, the live audience, and it's also just a matter of falling in love with the process with the rehearsal process, especially in theater, because like working in a place like the Pioneer downtown at the university, that's a professional regional theater. So the rehearsal period is about 4.5 weeks, and then you open and you run for 2.5 weeks. So you have 4 weeks to put together a whole play. That's not a lot of time without full-time dedication. And so the rehearsal period there, it's full-time. It's, 10 to 6 or 10 to 5 or whatever. And you're there working it out, exploring, trying different ways to stage this or approach that scene, approach this scene. And I never had like a big part in any of the plays that I was in, but I would go to rehearsals and just sit there and watch rehearsals all the time. And it worked out pretty well because I got more stage time.
Yeah. Because
I'd be sitting there like I was doing, there was a production of Othello there a few years ago, and I was playing some soldier. I didn't have any lines. I was playing just some soldier who comes in and out, throughout the play every once in a while. But I would show up to rehearsals and just sit there and watch the actors work. And it worked to my advantage because there was a couple of times when the director would be like sitting around and be like, oh, we need something going on up here on this side of the stage. And he would turn around and there I was sitting there, and he'd go, Jared, you're here. You're in this scene now. And that happened a couple of times. And I was like, oh, great. Like I showed up just to watch. You get more stage time. And I get to watch and learn from everybody who's working.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So after Gold Fever, do you have any other films coming up that you care to share about?
Yeah, I'd love to. There's a movie that a small independent movie that I shot here that was all made locally. actually we finished we made it right before I made Gold Fever, but it just showed at the Salt Lake Film Festival. And it's this really great little movie called Point B that I love. And we just, like I said, we just screened it at the film festival. It closed the film festival and it went fantastic. It's a great movie that I'm in with another local actor who unfortunately passed away last year named David Fetzer. Great guy. And so he's my co-star in it. So the process for that movie now is to hit, the festival circuit. They're looking at, they submitted it for Sundance. They're looking at, Slam Dance and South by Southwest, a few other festivals around the country. So that's where that's going to go.
Any other films, or was that
No, that's it for now. This whole year has been really slow. I haven't really worked on much at all this year. So that's what I got coming up is Point B making the rounds, and then Gold Fever on TV. Well,
actually, yeah, October 11th coming up here real soon. So, when I bring people on, obviously Salt Lake City podcast, I always like to find out what you like about. You've moved away, you've lived in LA, you've lived in New York. What do you like about Salt Lake City?
There's just it's my home.
You were born here in Salt Lake?
I was born here. I grew up in the suburbs in South Jordan, and now I'm here and I work here. And there's something, just something great about Salt Lake about it's a big city life when you're downtown, but you can get away from that anytime you want. You know what I mean? Like if you feel like being
in the mountains.
If you're like a metropolitan, if you're a city boy, like I'm a city boy, I like walking around in the streets, down the crowded streets.
A man after my own heart.
Yeah. So, but then, obviously there's mountains. You can go camping,
There's a lot to offer here.
Yeah, there's a lot to offer. And I really see the film industry growing here. There's a show, on BYU TV called Granite Flats that's shooting now that, they're from out of town. I mean, the funding comes from LA. There's some of the actors are from LA. But it shoots down but it shoots around here and it's on BYU TV. I think it's like BYU TV's first, like real fully, full-fledged TV show that they've produced. So, that's an exciting thing. And I just see a lot of great, artistic.
There's a lot of artistic people here. I mean, a lot here.
Yeah. And it, like I said, it's just I can really see this kind of becoming an artistic hub in the same way that LA is, or Chicago is, or Seattle, or New York even.
Another thing I always ask people, and it's become actually a favorite of quite a few listeners, is favorite eating spots, favorite restaurants, cafes. Where does Jared like to stuff his mouth?
Oh man, there's
a lot out there. I know.
Yeah, there's
local, preferably, not McDonald's or.
Well, I'm a total rat of the Salt Lake Roasting Company. I'm there all the time, and it's not. There's food there, but the coffee is just.
See, and I've never actually had anybody on here recommend good coffee, so I'm glad you brought that up.
My girlfriend, I wasn't really that into coffee until I started dating my girlfriend, who's just.
She's a coffee
fanatic. She's a coffee nut.
What you would think? Okay, Salt Lake City and coffee. We do have some delicious coffee.
Yeah.
There are coffee drinkers here.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not the whole stereotype of we don't drink caffeine here.
Yeah. Oh, plenty of coffee. Lots of good coffee. I love the Roasting Company. And there's this other place called Red Moose that's on.
Not familiar with that place.
Yeah, it's on 9th South and 11th East.
And what is it?
Strike that, reverse it.
Strike that, reverse it.
9th East, 11th South, and it's this great little coffee shop / restaurant. They got
9th East, 11th. I'm trying to visualize where that is. Is it tucked away? Is it pretty well?
No, it's right there. It's right there.
Is it pretty new?
I don't know how old it is. It was here when I got back from LA, so I don't know how old it is.
Gosh, I always feel like I'm, not winning at knowing everything in Salt Lake when somebody brings something like that up,
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm not an expert by all means. This was just a place I found like a few months ago, just kind of stumbling around. Eat something, but they got a great Belgian waffle there at Red Moose.
I'll have to go try. I love Belgian waffles.
Yeah, big. You order a latte. It's just this big cup. You're definitely getting your money's worth. I like Badass Coffee Company a lot too.
Right there on State Street.
Right there on State Street.
Yeah.
There's this and there's a sushi place right near there too that I've kind of become addicted to. There's an Ichiban Sushi right there on State Street, just south of 33rd.
You ever go to Red Ginger there for the 50% off sushi?
I've never been to Red Ginger.
They got good sushi. If you can handle the yelling, there's a lot of yelling in there.
I'm sure I could handle that. I'll have to check it out. My girlfriend sort of got me into sushi too, and now I'm a total completely sushi lover. Every weekend, I'm like, you want to go out for sushi?
There you go.
Yeah.
Any other recommendations, or is that's probably? I mean, I'm sure you could probably go on all night.
Yeah, that's all I can think of right now because that's mainly where I've been going to. Right.
So how can people find you online? Do you have like a website, or is there like a place that people can find out more about Jared?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook. It's just my page on Facebook. Jared Shipley is the name.
Like if they want to connect, and
you can find me through there, or I'm on Twitter too. My handle's just Jared Shipley. I don't do any of those crazy, goofy handles.
Yeah,
people do on Twitter.
But it's good to just have your name. That way people can find you.
Yeah.
So find you online. Watch Gold Fever October 11th and the October 18th.
October 11th and October 18th.
What time? Do you know what time here for the Salt Lake City listeners? What time?
It's let's see. It's 9:00 Eastern, 8:00 Central.
So that would be 7 o'clock Utah time, Mountain Standard Time.
I don't know if they're going to do a time delay on that. Sometimes they'll delay it for Mountain and Pacific.
Probably just check your list.
Yeah, just check the list. But it'll be Friday night around 7, 8 o'clock.
Just DVR it.
Yeah, or DVR it. And it's October 11th on Discovery Channel.
Cool. I'm excited for it. I really am. I'm glad you brought it to my attention. I didn't even know about it.
Yeah. I'm excited too. We were everybody who's worked on it here was just kind of been wondering, like, where is it? Is it going to go through? Is it going to? I was worried that it wasn't going to go through because Discovery was giving all this press. They're producing another Gold Rush miniseries with Ridley Scott's production company, and it has like big name actors like Tim Roth and a few of the guys from a couple of guys from Game of Thrones and all these. And I was like, oh, they're not gonna they're giving all this press to Ridley Scott's thing. They're not gonna air Gold Fever with a bunch of no names from Utah. But thankfully that's not the case, and they picked it up.
Thank you so much, Jared, for coming on this episode of the podcast and sharing your story. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our conversation. I know I enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your feedback at 385-202-5926. That is a voicemail line for the podcast. Love to hear your thoughts on this episode or any of the other previous episodes of the podcast. Hey, you might have noticed at IamSaltLake.com up top, there's a calendar button now. You can click that and find out about all of the events and things going on in and around Salt Lake City. If you'd like to have your event listed there, drop me an email at iamsaltlake@gmail.com and I'll get it added just as soon as I can. Anyways, I'm here Mondays and Thursdays, so you're going to want to make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or in Stitcher Radio. That way you don't miss a single episode. If you would like to be a guest on the show, drop me an email and I'd love to bring you on and showcase you and let Salt Lake City get to know you a little bit better. So until then, my name is Chris Hollifield and that will do it for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.